gases and our natural resource consumption is out. There is no success at all. It's completely to flip the graph.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Professor Dr. Zabta Khan Shinwari. He at present is working as a distinguished national professor and professor emeritus at University Islamabad in Pakistan. He is also vice president of the Islamic World Academy of Sciences. He already has many awards and honors. So I think so his CV is already with you. And now I would request Professor Zabta Khan Shinwari for his presentation. And now is 11:10. I would request the speaker that be very kind. Thank you very much.
Thank you. First of all, I am really grateful to Professor Islamic Academy. These two young ladies working, always pushing us. So thanks a lot. Legally, my time is already finished. We'll do something in the next 10-15 minutes, inshallah. So what I'm trying to do is SDGs, and then how academia, they are already doing their bit, but how can we really link all the science? We are working with UNESCO, persuading academia to link science to the society somehow. So this is what, in my humble submission, I'm basically working on plants, indigenous knowledge, traditional medicine, etc. And then from there, that indigenous knowledge taking back to the market. So from what we call it, from bench to bed, I remain CEO of a herbal industry. And there we have several products now that are really world class. So these, I'm going bit quick, I'm sorry because of time. All these bold SDGs, 17, you know all of that. They are somehow linked with only today choose one discipline, plant sciences. And I will be trying to explain these, how are they. For example, if you pick the one, poverty and hunger, 1 and 2. Secondly, when we were working internationally, we all believe that no SDG can be taken alone. Everyone is linked to the other one. Almost all 17 of them. And particularly for IS, the last one is very important. What says is collaboration among different countries, institutions, and all that. This is where we should be focusing on how can we really relate that. So if you take this, for example, hunger, poverty. So I take your talk the other day from there, and that made my job easy. If you look at the growth, we say, oh, 300 years, we've done something wonderful, humans. But if you look at the reality, every second 4 people die because of hunger. And then 1% of the world population has the wealth, which is more than the 50% of the bottom poor population of the world. And that 26 individuals have some money, that is more than again that 50% population of the bottom of the world, people that are living in that hunger and poverty. So, did you really grow? And grow at the cost of whom? That is the question mark, that the majority is still suffering. And I was talking in Cambridge the other day, and I said, sometimes I believe whether we are the same Homo sapiens, because we are treated differently. So that's where we really we have to think about how can these resources, how can that be used. So now, if we talk about plant sciences, again, one more sentence, that all those people that are living in the biodiversity-rich area, I take example of Hindu Kush Himalaya, Pakistan, India, Nepal, and all, Afghanistan, they're the poorest. And we, have good slogans for them, keep the streets, very good, give you oxygen, takes carbon, etc., etc. But they are dying of hunger. And you're not looking at they don't have anything to survive. So there is that you really, for example, in Pakistan, all the herbs that come to the market and the big industry use it are collected by women and children, those who never went to school. And they don't know anything. And they get some $1 something, and then when you get a compound, this is a long story. Professor Atai is sitting here, and he is the champion in this field. So he can tell you more about it. But that is the reality that we have to, and why we should be using herbal medicine, we all know that. Sometimes it is much better than allopathic medicine, and there are proofs, there are Again, there are some diseases where still the science has to find an answer. And it includes many disciplines. Diabetes is one of them, and then cancer, and then you name it. And there are still questions that science has to find a solution for it. And herbs are still that is. But and why the reasons were the reason not only these chemicals, but also diet and the regime, what we call, to change people's habit. The youth, what kind of food they use. So if you look at the global burden of diseases, so mainly we come across that it's because of the intake that you take, and that's why, for example, one of the reasons of the next generation that they will be facing is obesity. And this obesity is not only because of excess of food, but lesser amount of food also. It's a different kind of things that you, and then diabetes and all other things. So if you look at the triads of trouble, that is obesity, conflict, and mental illness. Now, because of the war, because of the terrorism and all other issues related, humans are really passing through a difficult time. The other day, somebody was explaining us an activity that happened here in Karachi was the reason some kind of mental illnesses of that young MPhil student in the university who blew herself. So there is that you really, when you talk about all this, and this is not only, it is more complex, I will take it to make it more complex for you, not only indigenous knowledge about plants and other things, it's indigenous languages that are going to, and UNESCO is working on all this, what we call an ethnologue. Many of the languages are going to be extinct in the next 2 decades because of the influence. For example, my children who have their mother tongue is different, but they don't speak that language anymore. They can't speak it because of the influence of the city where they have to learn Arabic and English and Urdu and blah blah, and their own language is gone. So there is that we also have to, and with that language, UNESCO and other experts are worried with the loss of that language. A lot of knowledge about science, about plants, about other things will wipe out. So you will lose a treasure because of whatever you call it, And I take one more example of nutraceuticals. In Pakistan, we are very rich. This is the only country in the world, I usually love to say that word, from 0 meter to 8,611 meter. The stretch that we go. There is an Everest in Nepal, but they wish to have a beautiful city like Karachi. So this is what we got, the best piece of land Allah has given us, nature has given us, but we didn't care of it. And because of that, we have a variety of things available for us. Biodiversity. And we can take all of this. The other thing, philosophically speaking, Avicenna, who said that either would like to have a short life, but rather than a narrow life. And that why they say it, that earlier you live long, you die short, what they call it, and now you are living short. You may have a life, but that life at the end of the day, you are bedridden and you are on the chair and you have a lot of medicine every day. 50-year plus age person, almost average take 3 pills a day somehow for something. So that is you need to consider that. So what I'm taking to another SDG, which is 3, again, safe, effective, quality, affordable medicine. The medicine, again, I'm not going into that detail for herbal medicine and homeopathy and all others. There are a lot of discipline. Again, the world is of money. The money that the multinational, I'm sorry to you that they are doing a good job too. I'm not saying criticizing them, but still, at the cost of, we do something which is really also valuable about plants, about use of plants. In the mountain where there is no pills, they live longer sometimes. Better life, healthy life. So there is, and then when we call about biodiversity loss, some of the traditional healers, they use some kind of animal's brain and animals, different parts of the animals, and then in that case, there's a lot of trade also, and that animal become endangered. So these multiple, because we don't domesticate, we don't grow either wild plants or wild animals, it's just dependent on the whatever lot we have in the wild. This is what I was telling you about the biodiversity rich area. This is poverty index of Pakistani districts. And those areas where there is a very rich area in the Himalayas, in the Hindu Kush, where all the treasure is there, the poorest people live there. The index they are the poorest in the country. Same is in Balochistan, same is in other areas. So there is that we don't offer them something in return to keep that treasure for us and save it for us. Another question with this request was for the terrorism, somehow that's not only linked to religion, it's also linked to economy, to poverty, and to all this. It's believed that in desperation things happen. So if you want to live in peace, you have to look after those people who have nothing to lose if they blew themselves off. So somehow everything is linked and you have to really work on it. And that is when you say inclusiveness of involvement, gender, and other. I'm taking SDGs, linking that to this knowledge of plant sciences. So there is the women's rights and girls' rights and all this, and the conflict, terrorism, etc. So if you involve them, if you help them, if you take their knowledge, their collections, and other things, give them some good value, probably they will be a good part of the society and they can be of a great help. I took all these four together, which are related somehow to climate change, and I will not talk much about it because we already heard several good things, but the yield, the previous presenter and the earlier, we all knew about it. So let me move on, and then, but what internationally saying that we are for sure vulnerable by 2030, we will not be achieving that goals. Those targets that were fixed from MDGs to SDGs and all those goals. But there, we have to have somehow transform. We have to, change the SDGs with each other, and we have to refocus and involve the academia more. And that transformation again, how can one be done with the 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6? An example, this is how if you link all this and you involve more literate and more educated people in that, probably the world can get better result out of it. And for example, as I said, one is linked to the another one. For example, SDG 4, if you have very good quality education, that will help you to achieve the other 4 goals that you have fixed for yourself. Be it poverty, be it health, be it hunger, be it whatever. So economic growth. So what you need to, if you focus on one, you get 4 others. And sometimes if you focus only on one negatively, for example, climate change, you use coal, you get some energy for the poor people, but at the same time you're destroying nature. So this is how all these are linked. And thirdly, there was one slide in it, what we call it One Health. If you have to consider all this, keeping time in mind, chairperson, so don't worry about that. If you talk about the health of the human, you have to consider the health of the planet. Human, animals, environment, biodiversity, humans, and environment. What we call it One Health. And our academy has done a lot with US Academy, awareness raising and all this, because now the disease is corona. I don't want to indulge in a debate whether it came from and how it came from and all this. Species barrier crossing of the pathogens from one species to another. So there are several questions that are because of the humans. Things happen either intentionally or unintentionally. So that too we somehow to, of course we know the problems with the indigenous knowledge or traditional medicine that are there, a number of them. And I would be requesting the authorities to somehow, if you could focus. Now you have happy to learn that our traditional medicine department or system thing. So what we need is we have to have not only research at one time, but you need to do several things: awareness, mistrust of people, and all this. If you link all this, maybe you can get better result for your products, and you can have some. This is what I said about the diversity in plant. This is how we push why people are reluctant to use herbal medicine, from collection to the consumer, even for a collection, for example, as I said, young children and women, they go to the mountain and they just pick and mix it. Earlier there were environment-friendly sacks available for them. Now it's a plastic sacks and half are die on the way, and then they mix and you get something which you don't know even. There was a study in UK. The tea that they were drinking has several species mixed with it, which was sometimes injurious too, because they collected, they put, and sometimes mistakenly there were 24 species were reported from one tea bag beside the tea. So that is that if you are taking something, how can you be sure that the product that you want? So for that, you have with WHO also we are working, and there are several. We need a legislation, of course, and we need to have to focus on these things. Thanks that here, at least in Pakistan, one organization, clinical trial, they have very successful trials started already, and I would be requesting to have some for the national interest, even if you don't earn money, to do something on the herbal medicine too, so that we have policy for it, we have safety, efficacy issues resolved, and this is not only for plants. This is, for example, this amphibian species. They are used, and their skin has a very good zigonotide, which is 1,000 times more potent than morphine, for example. So there are a lot of treasure available for you in this biodiversity where you build, and now in Australia, New Zealand, they have for the knees from the plants, they get something that you don't need to operate, and your knees are, what they call it, scaffolds that they've made from plants. A very new field, and people are working in it. And then mathematicians and biologists are working on quantitative biology, and they are finding things for the common use of the common man. Endophytic, very quickly in a minute or so, this is not only the plant that helps. This is inside, like your biome, microbiome has thousands and millions of microorganisms, same as in plant. And those sometimes it's not the plant that is helping you, it's the microorganism that is helping you. And Fagonia, one of the species for breast cancer, we found out that there was a fungus inside which helps you, and Dr. Shad is already working with us. We are working jointly on nanoparticles of that, and that helps you. This is that species Fagonia, which is very common in Pakistan for breast cancer. Already UK group found some compounds, but ultimately we found that there was a fungus inside that really inhibits growth of cancer cell in the breast, and that helps a lot. But there are several uses of endophytic microorganisms. I will not go into those details. Nanoparticles already, maybe Dr. Shad and Professor Bhatt may be talking, so I'm skipping all this. What is it? How it works? And all this. How can you get some good product from the nanoparticles? Its applications, and how can it clean the waste product, and how can you really use all this antibiotic resistance, etc. Time is running out, so I'm just closing it. Science and inequality. This we are today talking with our council and general body too, that we have to really take some of the scientists, they are too brilliant, but they don't get a chance because of several issues that also we need to address. I give you an example of our grandchildren. In one of the village, all the male of that village have sold their kidneys just to survive to get buy food. All one village. And now the female are selling it, their bodies, their parts. So that is that financial crisis, there's a huge report and a slap on the humanity, what's happening there. So we should be somehow, today we are discussing the refugee scientists from several countries like Syria, like, Lebanon and several other countries, that we have to really think about that, how can we work together. So the last SDG, that is the collaboration, we really all need to work. We have resources, some has labs, and there is where we can work. So for us is either we have business as usual, some good air condition that stops bad air from outside, you live inside, or we take everybody along and we think that we are the Ashraful Makhluqat, call it, and we have the responsibility to look after. And the answer for all this is the leadership in the old civilizations, the new way of thinking in China, that they think that the old civilization has answered to the critical question that we are facing now. Of course, we can talk about modern science of vaccine, etc., but I stop here. This is my lab that works on interdisciplinary in Taiwan University. From abiotic stresses we started, and then we are now here. So, if you want to achieve those SDGs, we recommend that academia is the main pillar to help you, to somehow guide you to get it. Some lessons from my student, always I do. You can read it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.